Right, Nakia. So starting off with your artist statement, a little different than I've done for other students. Um, it seems like you're almost like apologetic in your artist statement, and I don't want you to feel like that at all. This is obviously a student artist statement, and your artist statement doesn't have to define all of your work. Your artist statement has to be specific to the project that you're working on. So you just have to make a statement for these 8 images. And that's what you've done here. You talk about the peacefulness of night, that you like the city lights, you like the reflection, you like being out alone. Sometimes you look like you're up to no good. People think you're a kid out there, but maybe with a camera, you get away with it a little bit more. So all of this leads into that idea of an artist statement. So I think what you have here is really solid. Don't think of it as something that has to explain all of your work or something that has to define your work in the future. This artist statement is specific for this body of work. And I think what you have here, taking out the questions about not feeling like it's good enough, taking that part out, I think you have a solid ideas that you're working with. So looking at your images, the first thing I want to do is look at them technically. And in all of them, you've kept your ISO nice and low, and you have really long exposures. That's why we're getting these really beautiful colors. Now, something for you to test with your own camera, because it's going to change for all different cameras, is when you start to see digital noise. So we talk about digital noise as being something that comes from the ISO, but we also get digital noise when we have longer exposures. So if we look at some of your images, you can start to see that digital noise. Especially, I notice the change happens between 8 and 15 look okay, but then when we get to those 30, actually, we see quite a bit right in this area, and this one's 8 seconds. But when we get to the 30 seconds is when, or 20 seconds here, we start to see more of that digital noise. So just pay attention to it. We definitely see it in this image. And that'll kind of guide you as to how long your camera can have an exposure before you start to see the negative repercussions of the longer exposure. And we haven't really talked about that in this class or in PH 108. We normally are just talking about the ISO because students aren't normally shooting with 30-second exposures at this point. All right, your images are all sharp. There's no issue there. There's a crispness with all of your images as far as focus and as far as camera shake. So we don't have any issue with sharpness. The light in your images are different than what we're seeing in most student images. Most students are using natural light, but nearly all of the light in your images is artificial. So you have to be very intentional to not photograph night, not do night photography where there's not light, which a lot of people do. You think you want to go out to like an empty area to photograph, but you really want to go to where lights are. So here you're using artificial light. The light source is often in the frame for all of your images. And you're utilizing reflection. So we're not only seeing the light, but we're seeing the reflection of the light. And that's part of the light source in your images. The colors in your images are blues and purples and yellows. Those are the main colors. These colors from the sky and colors from the lights that are available. So here, the purple of the light of the Skydance Bridge there, some purple in the sky here, otherwise it's blues in the skies, and then the yellows of the lights. The composition in all of your images seems very intentional, utilizing line as your main form of compositional design. The line here pulling us back, then we have shape, this line and the repetition of the slats of wood pull us back into this image, the shape here, the lines of the road, the lines of the overpass here. This is more about shape than anything else, the shape of the building juxtaposed against the shape of the tree and the train in the background. But here again, we have line. Even here, you're using a line as the water is reflecting the light and the pathway is leading us to your building. Here we have line and shape. So very conscientious of how you're composing your images. Your image 1, 2, and then all of them at the bottom have a calmer feel, but image number 3 and 4 have kind of a creepier feel. Those are also the images that are a little bit more on the yellow side. Here, like the cars are going by the road. We can't see what it's saying. It seems like there's some glitch happening with the road sign here. This is just an eerie area with a dead end sign and no trespassing. And then what looks like a still railroad crossing in the back. So a lot of kind of eerie things happening in that image. This image could go either way. I think it could be really calm or a little bit eerie. Overall, your images are really cohesive as we're dealing with Oklahoma City. We're dealing with a single city. We're dealing with similar colors, and they're all shot at night. So they all have a very similar feel in that sense. And the long exposure definitely brings cohesion to your series. So this is a really solid final project, especially for a beginning class. Your artist statement, I think, does speak to what you're creating here. So just refining that a little bit. Just the language of it to make it sound more confident than it does as you're turning it in right now. But otherwise, really nice job with your final project.